Hey folks, today I just want to let you in on a little conversation that Kyle and I are going to have. We've not prepared for this, and but I feel that working together, we bring to the table uh, the help and training. I think at a deeper level that a lot of folks are looking for. And yes, we know we need to cover capturing customer data on wish lists, and we know about all these mechanical things. And frankly, Kyle, I think you'll agree that you could have a pretty good sales career if you learn some mechanical things, if you learn some mechanical questions, the key questions that lead you through the sale, some responses. I mean, right? You could have a
Yeah.
decent
Oh,
life.
yeah. Yeah.
But what if you could go 5 miles deeper? And we're talking today about a bold subject, and it's really kind of difficult. And I don't know how that many people cover this in training, but we're talking about love and where you come from as a salesperson, as a sales professional, as a representative, a consultant in your business. I'm rambling a lot here, but Kyle, I know we're opening a can of worms. But tell me a little bit about your thoughts on the place or the role of love
Mm.
when it comes to our professional lives.
Yeah. And I'm reminding everybody, we have not prepared for this.
We
So
have
you're
not.
about to find out what falls out of my mouth here. Um, you know, you hit the nail on the head. You can take, you and I could have a class where we take a salesperson who maybe doesn't have any experience. And I very much believe I can teach you, and Jimmy can teach you how to sell, because it's a process. And I come at it through psychology. That's my background and understanding. So for me, there is a scientific process, and studies that I have spent years and years understanding and learning that give you a process, and you can be quite good at sales. And it feels extremely empty at the end of the day.
Yeah.
And I think about a guy that I interviewed for a sales position, probably it was a few months ago, so fairly recent. Nice young man, had sales experience, had left his sales position at a luxury establishment. Um, and in the interview, he was telling me that he wanted to leave that thing, and all the reasons he gave was because he felt empty.
Mm-hmm.
It was soulless.
Mm-hmm.
It was lifeless. The culture didn't appreciate anything
Him.
but the process.
Right.
I think about owners that own their stores or start a business, and they feel shackled by that. One person that I'm thinking of, a client that explained to me that they hadn't done anything for themselves, to fill their tank, if you will, in over a month, because the business was demanding so many things from them.
Mm-hmm.
And um, and my heart breaks for those things because it was empty. So
Yeah.
you said this word love, and the thing that I think about is, we can teach you to sell, we can teach you to manage. There's a process, you can go through it, um, but you have to decide to love. It will affect everything you do. But if that's not what drives you in the morning, if it's not driving every conversation, then you end up feeling empty and soulless. And
Yeah.
I've
Yeah.
been
At the
there.
end of the day. Yep.
I've,
Yeah.
I've been there. And if we can help people in some small way, just shift a thinking and perspective to say, have purpose and bring value to people. Love is a couple things. It's boundaries and it's value. I need safety, and I create a safe place for me to love you. And then
Mm-hmm.
in order to do that, I'm going to make your life better as a result of our connection together.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
if that is achieved, you can do that in sales and in management
Right.
every single day. If you're not, it'll feel empty.
Well, in your work, you're everything that you do will and should feel exponentially better because you're acting out of love. And like you said, you're going to feel better at the end of the day. Hey, tell that story about that Christmas where you had that big sale, but just you weren't excited about it.
Oh gosh, which one?
The one you just told me recently, whatever
You
that
know,
one.
um, yeah, and I think this is the same story, um, because it actually just happened again recently, and I was reminded of the story. But there was a Christmas that came along, and we had a big sale
Yeah.
at the jewelry store.
By the way, Kyle owns Bullock's Jewelers in New
Yeah, in
Mexico.
Roswell, New Mexico. Yeah, and so this was back when I was working full time and in sales there, um, and when we had this big sale come through, and we had a lot of money on the line, a big client. And the long story short is that it was a custom project that ended up not the custom place dropped the ball,
Yeah.
and
It goes so smoothly.
it was like 3 weeks out to Christmas. It was a big Christmas gift, lots of money, and we was faced with a choice. We either tell the customer that this isn't going to happen, and leave a lot of money on the line, just gone, and risk making him upset, or I to make this happen somehow and move hell or high water, which is what I chose to do. And I'm telling you, I pulled every single string I could. I pulled every maneuver. I spent a decade in this business at that time, and I used every skill I learned to pull this thing out of my hat. And
Yeah.
we delivered that job. I literally 1 hour. It came in 1 hour before the deadline, and it was like right after Christmas, and it was like this was the last moment, and it happened. We delivered the job, and I immediately felt empty, and I was frustrated with myself
Hmm.
because what I lost in the weeks, literally like 3 weeks trying to fix this problem, I was trying to solve a sales problem, and I lost time with my family. I lost sleep over this thing. I had literal nightmares over it. I had a ball of stress in my stomach that caused me to have cramps. And I spent my entire Christmas that way. And then
Joyful.
the 3 days afterwards, and it gets delivered, it walks out the door, we get the big fat check, and I just went, I don't care. I don't care about the check.
Not worth it.
I missed the joy of watching my kids open up Christmas gifts this year and
Yeah.
play with them because I was sitting on the couch going, is it going to make it on time?
Right.
How
Right.
stupid.
Yeah.
And I made a memento, and it sits on my desk to this day that reminds me that some things aren't worth the money.
Hmm.
And I'm not in business for it to run me. I run it.
Right.
And I don't live to work, I work to live. And I look at that, and I've had several times since then where I looked at and I've said no to things because and money has walked
Yeah.
because I knew what it would have taken out of me. It took love out of me.
Yeah.
It took my love for the business out of me. It took my love with my family out of me. And I don't ever want to experience that again. And Jimmy, I bet you could probably tell stories
Oh yeah.
just like
Oh yeah,
this.
yeah. And by the way, just the caveat here, folks, is if you've got a big project, you got a big custom thing going on. Yes, do everything you can to make it happen.
Yeah.
But let's just kind of wrap it up in the end and talk about the perspective when you're doing that, because I'm sure there's a lot of owners and managers that are saying, Kyle and Jimmy, don't tell people to not care about these big things. That's not the point. The point is going to be your perspective as you're approaching this. But I had a situation one time where a woman who was a very good customer was handing me her ring, and she wanted us to tighten it. It was a 3 carat, a round, brilliant, natural diamond. Back in the day, lab wasn't even invented then, and the way she handed it to me, and the way I grabbed it out of her hands and was flippant
Mm.
about about her precious piece of it made her cry.
Mm.
And then I cried because I thought, wait a minute, back up, Jimmy here. Let's get our values right. This isn't a piece of metal and stone, and just understanding what that meant to her, but also how my little actions were flippant and inconsiderate. And and I've had hundreds of those little checks throughout the years that have checked my attitude and check. So I think maybe that's a good training point here for this training video is, Kyle, what are some thoughts you have as to what could be a good check for, are we acting out of love? Are we
Mm.
what? Wait a minute. Let's go back to love in the first place and talk about why. Who cares about love? This is a transaction, you
Yeah.
know.
Y-
Um, why?
it would be a crime if people have not seen this movie, so you better go watch it. It's Miracle on 34th Street,
Of course.
right? You got to
Yeah.
watch it.
Yeah.
So it's the best illustration, I think, in sales.
Yeah.
And is Mrs. Macy's, and in the heyday of Macy's retail, and all the people are coming in, and wanting stuff from Macy's, and Macy's philosophy was, we're gonna sell it to you off the shelf whether you want it or not.
Hmm.
And then of course Santa is there, and changes the culture of people's hearts to
Yeah.
love the kids, love the people, love the parents, love who they are, and would send them to other stores that, if they didn't have what they had on the shelf, they'd send them to, Nordstrom's down the street.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a scene where you're like, I can't believe he's doing this. And then the bosses realize that the customers are coming up and thanking them for helping them.
Yeah.
And they go, all right, this is now our policy, which is interesting because it's almost as soon as you make a policy of love,
Yeah.
you almost get
You
stripped
ruin
it
it.
a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
It was the philosophy that Santa brings in this, right? And so how do you measure it? I always think of that illustration with Macy's, and want my staff to know the same thing, or anyone I work with to know the same thing, that you can let someone walk out the door if you're helping, and their lives become better. We say a little prayer on our that goes like this: may every life that comes in our store leave better than when they first arrived. And our sign, our motto, our mission is actually on the wall. It says, create cherished memories, build relationships. And it's on the way out the door, so that every staff member has to see that when customers come in and out. And I would encourage all the stores and companies, managers watching this, to spend time together talking about your own Macy's experiences. When someone came in and you just had a meaningful time,
Hmm.
the more you celebrate that, and the less you legislate that, making policies, the more it becomes natural.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
people will come up, and now it's bold because that's not what corporations do.
Yeah.
But if you do it and you celebrate it, you'll be very distinct and different.
Yeah.
And if you just take the next 20, 30 minutes as a team talking about your Macy's experiences with people, my bet your day is going to be a little bit different than it normally would have been.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
What
And
do you think, Jimmy?
the beauty of this, I've read two books recently, and thank you, Jim Woodard, for suggesting The Gold Standard by Colin Cowie. And I also love Unreasonable Hospitality by Will Guidara.
Mm.
And they talk, it's the greatest restaurant in the world in Manhattan. And then that's the Unreasonable Hospitality book. Also, The Gold Standard is the guy who caters the finest events in the world, okay, where people are spending millions. Inevitably, in those both of those books, the thing that makes the most impact with people are the things that come from the heart, the thank you letters, and those sincere acts of love. They're the most affordable, they're the cheapest to provide, but they also have the most impact. So I'm thinking, hey, let's do that. Let's implement this no matter how we can in our business. And oh, incidentally, I wanted to tell you, Interstellar is another great movie
Mm.
that have you seen Interstellar?
Yeah. Oh, it's great. Yeah.
Okay. So Matthew McConaughey is talking about who made this wormhole for us to come and save ourselves. We made it. We made it from the future. And he said it's made of love. And I'm like, this is amazing. So I love that. So okay, so we got to get going now here, but I think that's a great idea. Have a discussion about your own Macy's experience. Whether it's something that you both either provided in your store to a customer, but also something that you may have experienced yourself.
And can I say this too? You said something about it doesn't cost much to
Yeah,
be hospitable,
yeah,
but there is a cost. It's not financially costly,
no,
but there's an emotional and social thing. And I'll go back to the story you shared about this woman that you taken a pendant from. She starts crying,
hmm,
but then you start crying.
yeah,
And the instinct of a rigid sales perspective is don't do that, Jimmy.
yeah,
Jump
yep,
into the features, the benefits, the need payoff problems and solutions. All those are great skills. But if you will allow yourself the risk of of showing emotion to people,
yeah, vulnerability.
vulnerability,
Yeah,
as managers and owners of companies, if you're willing to take a moment in a staff meeting, close doors with your team, and be vulnerable and talk about those things, that's a cost because you're afraid that it may not register well and people might
hmm,
make fun of you or whatever. We feel that when we were kids, we're going to feel that when we're adults.
yeah,
But if you take that risk, it will be the most transformative thing in your business, in your teams. And that's something that you can't turn it into a policy. You can't
no,
make people do it. But if you have this discussion after this video is over and just allow yourself to have a little bit of freedom to share an actual feeling with people, it will be the most transformative thing that you will have done all week. I
yep.
promise.
Yeah. And I love the idea of every one of you coming home from work and somebody says, "Hey, how was your day?" And you just say, "You know what? I was able to fill in the blank, or I got to, or I'm lucky enough to." And I think that's a neat privilege and a neat opportunity. And you know what, folks, something in my heart and Kyle's heart just said that this could be a new thing that we do. And it's just a letting you listen in on our conversations here as a somewhat of a new format of teaching and training. So if you like this, just send us an email. If you have ideas that you want us to talk about that go deeper into the rabbit hole, we're wide open for it. And of course, you know what? In a very weird, psychotic way, Kyle and I both love it when you email us with a problem because we just love problems.
We do.
We're weird that way. So do that. Thanks, Kyle. Hey, let's do this again. All right. This was
Yeah,
awesome.
I loved it.